applications for disposal to landfills. It's amazing that they don't know that's there, right? It's almost like they didn't do their due diligence as the Smithsonian, right? 9 face masks over a range of prices were analyzed for a total fluorine and PFAS. Inhalation was estimated to be dominant exposure rate 40 to 50%, followed by incidental ingestion and dermal. Okay, so 50% is your inhalation, followed by 15 to 40% ingestion, and then skin exposure 11 to 20%. That is not nothing, guys. Exposure and risk estimates were higher for children than adults. You hear that? Children. So the children who are wearing the masks, just like in every other situation or point we make, are actually at more risk because of the mask they're wearing. And high physical activity substantially increases the problem. Great, so when you have those kids that are running a mile, like that kid in China that ran a mile with a mask on, then dropped over dead, maybe that's why. Maybe it contributed. Maybe not. But the bottom line is, this is not debatable. You have masks that in many cases, not all of them, but many of them, most of the ones being worn by average people, I'll make that point next, are ones that have some level of PFAS that does build up in your body and forever chemicals. So when you're wearing this mask all day at school, every day at work, that's a guarantee it's going to build up in your body. Let's make sure you understand that. Here, I mean, that alone is a reason they shouldn't be forced on anybody. But none of this matters. Facts don't matter in the COVID clown world we exist in. It says, these preliminary findings indicate that wearing masks treated with high levels of PFAS for extended periods of time can be a notable source of exposure and have the potential to pose a health risk. More peer-reviewed science that's not debunked and it's not retracted, but apparently they don't care. How exactly do you trust the science but don't read the science? That's a good question. It says, despite modeled annual disposal of 29 to 91 billion masks, and an assuming a 100% leaching of individual PFAS into landfill leachate, which I believe that stands for like the water that percolated through a solid and leached out from like the gross water from the landfills. So it says 100% leaching of into landfills. Mask disposal would contribute only an additional 6%. That's important to hear. Of annual PFAS mass loads and less than 11 grams discharged to U.S. wastewater. Now, 6% is not nothing. Now, this is their assessment based on what they think this translates to. And I would take it at face value just for the context of this discussion, but we should ask whether 6% is the full risk. Now, my point is not necessarily about the ground leaching, which is what they're talking about. 6% of the annual mass load in wastewater. What I'm talking about is the breathing in, which is what they're talking about right here. The dominant exposure route. So you're breathing in this problem, this chemical that leads to all sorts of cancer problems, reproductivity, the weights, all the things we listed off. Where was it? It was right here. Some of the ones we listed off. There's more than that, by the way. Weakened immune systems. That's the big one. Right? So you're literally wearing something that's supposedly protecting you from the very thing that this adds to, it decreases your immune system. So you're actually increasing your risk of the very thing you think you're protecting yourself from because you're wearing the mask. Just incredible. Here's another one. Researchers test drinking water and face masks. It's kind of embarrassing that of all of them, the Smithsonian was the one that chose to omit the most obvious potential. That's obviously what's being used most right now in the world. Face masks are everywhere. So even if it is only 6% based on what they're, the increased use is only going to make that worse. And the more that they sit there and stew and simmer in the water and continue, that's what they were just pointing out. June 15th, 2022. This one's got a lot more information. Adding face masks to a growing list of products tested for the toxic class of chemicals, they're just including that, known as forever chemicals. PFAS do not naturally biodegrade. Forever. Studies have shown that chemicals persist in the environment. So here's another point. So even if you want to argue right now it's only 6%, that's a guaranteed number that's going to increase. Because they're going to sit, they're only going to use more, and the more they use, the more it's going to add. And if it's forever, it's just going to build. Right? That's a no-brainer. Both in the environment and in your body. Studies have shown the chemicals persist in the environment, contaminating groundwater systems, and can accumulate in the bloodstream. That's the most important part. So if you're wearing a mask all day, it's a fact that you are inhaling PFAS if it's in the mask you're wearing. And no, not all of them, but most of them have it. Then that means that it is a fact that it will build up in your bloodstream over time and not go away. That's a guaranteed health risk, guys. I don't even know how to make that any more clear. PFAS has been linked to reproductive issues, low birth weight, thyroid problems, weakened immune systems, and an increased risk of kidney, prostate, and testicular cancers. My God. Now it says, in most cases, they don't pose a risk, is what they're arguing. The same point they're making from over there. This is based on the argument, though, that you're not wearing a mask for 8 hours a day for the rest of your life. It says 5 out of the 9 masks contain some PFAS. Okay, so 60% of them. But most levels were low enough that the results did not cause concern. All right, but this again is based on the idea that you wear a mask that one time, you're going to be okay. The highest amounts were detected in the multi-layered masks. Look at that. The chemicals are also known to shed off gear, materials, and surfaces, and can be inhaled, ingested, or absorbed into the skin. So it's not just the mask you're wearing, right? It's the fact that the water that you're using that gets on your skin, that puts it, because the masks are in the ground, or in the ocean, the groundwater. But it says PFAS are persistent, toxic chemicals. So we don't want to find them in face masks.